undermine our ability to be successful. These are examples of behaviors that have been passed down through generations. The Bible talks about the iniquity passes down to the third and the fourth generations. And here she is as a psychologist, as a master of the mind and behavior and psychology. She says these things pass down through generation to generation. I see that, I see y'all. Just because we're in the modern age don't mean he still ain't around. Don't mean his hand ain't still not all up in it. So trauma. Yah has left us bewildered. Okay? He's left us bewildered. Deeply confused or perplexed. Okay? Got the sister scratching her head looking up. Got the brother with his lips twisted. You know how we be doing. What is this? I don't even. We got a boy, Kevin Hart. Wait. I'm confused. So when it comes to us, we're perplexed. We're confused. We have adapted. We've adapted to things. We've adapted to things. Olawado Iquano. Anybody knows who he is? Anybody heard his brother? 18th century son of an Igbo chief. Was captured as a boy, him and his sister. Him and his sister eventually were separated, got back together, separated. His testimony and story is amazing. We're going to read some of his biography because he ended up teaching himself. He learned English, learned how to read. And we're going to come back to him later on this month, especially as we get into the past revealed, because he's going to tell us things about Igbo culture that he don't need a Bible for. He didn't need a Bible for. Now you start coming to me with some, Jesus and some love and all this other stuff, this hooey gooey stuff. I'm listening, I'm intrigued. But when he looked in the text, and it was in the Torah. So we did that. We do that. We do that. He's like, I was excited to read this book. Because I've been living it. A lot of us in here are Igbo. You came from this part of Nigeria. There's no mistake about it. You got Igbo running through your blood. Igbo, a bad version of Hebo. Olawado's testimony. While we stayed on the coast, I was mostly on deck. And one day, to my great astonishment, I saw one of these vessels coming in with the sails up. So he hadn't left the coast yet. He's been captured. He's been kidnapped. He's on a right there at the coast. He ain't on the big boat. I saw one of these vessels coming with the sails up. As soon as the whites saw it, they gave a great shout, in which we were amazed. And the more so as the vessel appeared larger by approaching nearer. At last she came to an anchor in my sight, and when the anchor was let go, I and my countrymen who saw it were lost in astonishment. Didn't y'all say that in Deuteronomy 28? In Deuteronomy 28 and 37. And he said, I will do this. I will do this. So you're sitting on the coast. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what's going on. I ain't got my mama. I ain't got my daddy. I ain't got my sisters. I'm not even around my tribesmen no more. And all of a sudden this thing just pops up. Big anchor comes out. People hollering and shouting. And he said, there was there, I and my countrymen who saw, we lost our astonishment. Stunned. Lost in astonishment, excuse me. To observe the vessel stop, and we were now convinced it was done by magic. He's a boy. Probably a few years older than Jeremiah. And his sister's probably a little bit older than Josh. See, he thought it was magic. And Yah said, I'm going to come holler at you. I ain't going to tell you when. Just do what I'm asking you to do. And then when this happened, you're going to know I did it. So this is a slave barracoon. These were common on the west coast of Africa. I think particularly he was already on a little ship, about to go to the big ship. Okay, so this is very common. People died here. Some didn't make it here. Some didn't make it from the journey from inland of West Africa to the coast. Some didn't make it. Plenty died. So many died. They don't really have a actual number. They don't have a number. But what do y'all do? He said, I'm going to pursue you. I'm going to chase you. I'm going to hunt you with the sword. So this is a little bit more. This is the big ship. So all the water might have been on a ship like this, maybe. Getting ready to go to the big ship. That's a sight. I think I'd be astonished too. I think we have a saying. I felt my heart drop. People say, I felt my heart drop in my stomach. And y'all said, I'm gonna slap you with madness. I'm gonna slap you with madness. I'm gonna make you blind, and your heart you're gonna be stupefied in your heart, your mind. Other Waters' testimony, another page here. But now that the whole ship's cargo was confined together, it became absolutely pestilential. The closeness of the place and the heat of the climate added to the number in the ship being so crowded that each had scarcely room to turn himself. Almost suffocated us. This produced copious perspirations, so that the air soon became unfit for respiration. I can't even breathe. I can't breathe. From a variety of loathsome smells, and brought on a sickness among the slaves, of which many died. So go back to things that cause trauma. This little boy has seen death. I've been kidnapped. Where my sister? Where my mama? This little boy? Where my mom at? Where my daddy at? Where my baby sister at? My tribe, my village, my daddy was a chief, the elders and the wise women, and where are they at? Where am I? I never seen water before. Is this magic? And y'all said, I'm going to astound you. It's kind of like what he told Hezekiah. The prophet came up to him and said, who'd you have here? Oh, it was a representative of Babylon. He just came to, because I'm feeling good, I'm better than him. He said, what'd you show him? I showed him my whole house. He said, okay, they're going to come back and take it. What did Hezekiah, in paraphrasing, say? Well, at least it won't be in my day. So when y'all said all these things, it might not have been in their day. But it's going to be in your offspring, of 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 your offspring, regardless of where they go, is coming. And it's like running in a maze. And they run through a maze called the African continent. And they ran right to where the cat was waiting. Right there on the coast. Ain't nowhere else to go. Lost my place. Which many died, thus falling victim to the improvident avarice, as I may call it, of their purchasers. This deplorable situation was again aggravated by the galling of the chains, now become insupportable, and the filth of necessary tubs into which the children often fell and were almost suffocated. The shrieks of women and the groans of the dying rendered it a scene of horror almost inconceivable. In this situation, I expected every hour to share the fate of my companions, some of whom were almost daily brought upon deck at the point of death, and I began to hope that death would soon put an end to my miseries. That's a young boy talking like that. So this is what he's talking about. Can't turn. And I got to use the bathroom. Person beside me got to use the bathroom. So woman over here, she pregnant. She gave birth to a baby. Placenta, blood, everywhere. The other woman over here, young girl, it's her cycle time. So y'all created for a woman to have a cycle once a month. Well, it's her time. And a woman above me too. So now we understand when he said, man, I could not breathe. I'd rather be dead. I'm going to read some. So when we look at the definitions of trauma, these fit every description that would render a soldier of having PTSD or PSTD or whatever. Everything but when soldiers come back, they get some kind of help. When they get help. So what is the thing about the unconscious? That trauma stored there? And y'all, something mess with your mind. And the lady broke it down is that in the unconscious mind, it's going to go from generation to generation. And y'all said, I'm going to come get you. I'm going to get you with the sword. I'm going to get you with your mind. I'm going to leave you stupefied. And all the nations around about will look at you. And you'll be a byword. I'm going to read something. And we're going to take a small break here. So, this was common to be on a ship during the Middle Passage, the kids. So a lot of times the kids might be upstairs. The younger the kids, you know, JoJo's age, they're probably up on the deck. Josh, probably Jeremiah. But 16, 17, 18, downstairs. Elderly, maybe upstairs. But me, you, get up on that bottom. You too, get up on that bottom. It's on page 91 of Black Cargoes. Panarying was so common that during the Middle Passage, children used to play at kidnapping one another. So we're talking about trauma and the mind, how Yah will make you blind and madness of the mind and all these different things, and the trauma that he's going to cause, and now children play games of kidnapping each other on a slave ship going across the water to pass time. So it makes perfectly sense. 400 years later, I got a Glock in my hand. That makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Another aspect of trauma. This is Marcus Rydiker's slave ship. Read this on page 39 of his book. Speaking on trauma. Slaving captains consciously, the 10% of his mind, use sharks to create terror throughout the voyage. They counted on sharks to prevent the desertion of their seamen and the escape of their slaves during the long stays on the coast of Africa required to gather a human cargo. Naval officers used the fear of sharks too. So if you've ever heard stories about that, specifically the Igbo, who were like, look, I'm gonna run as soon as I get a chance. I'm gonna jump overboard. I'm gonna kill I'm gonna do something. Well, they're like, you go out and jump off if you want to. You see that shark down there, boy? Here's a true story. A second case was even more gruesome. Another captain facing a rage for suicide seized upon a woman as a proper example to the rest. He ordered the woman tied with a rope under her armpits and lowered her into the water. When the poor creature was thus plunged in about halfway down, she was heard to give a terrible shriek, which at first was ascribed to her fear of drowning. But soon after, the water appeared red all around her. She was drawn up, and it was found that the shark, which had followed the ship, had bit off her from the middle. That's trauma. If I'm on deck and they pull her up and half her body's gone, and she's still alive, it ain't going nowhere. Slave trade, Hugh Thomas. Yet the 18th century was a violent age. So from 1701 to 1799. Human life was not held in much respect. One description of a sea passage of a slaver was that once off the coast, the ship became half bedlam and half brothel. And the bedlam, it just means it was very chaotic, out of control. And brothel, I think we know what that means. And in some other study I had done when I was doing the Lost Without an Identity Until Now book, that there were plenty of boys who were sodomized on those ships, which also can explain Gay is the New Black. Because if you sow iniquity, you're going to reap iniquity. Talks about a certain captain, and he talks about had mistreated a very pretty negress, broke 2 of her teeth, and put her in such a state of terror, trauma, that she could only be sold for a very low price in Saint Domingue. Okay, I think that's Dominican Republic, where she died 2 weeks later. So that is, we'll take a small little break and then we'll come back. We'll finish up the rest.